It's almost here. It's almost 2025. It's almost the new year. I didn't mean to rhyme, but it happened as it came out of my mouth. WWE Raw is finally moving to Netflix starting January 6th, 2025. And I can't help but constantly say things like, wow, it's the insurrection of WWE Raw. Yeah, I'm kind of sorry for that. That's where my brain goes, but I find humor in the state of the world. Before I really get deeper into this topic, make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell for notifications. I plan on having a lot more things come out in 2025. You're going to see me doing a lot more cool things, and I'd really hate for you to miss it. I want you to be able to say, hey, I knew him when ... So go ahead and go do that. I'm on a journey to make videos answering some of the most frequently asked questions I see all over Twitter. I've seen questions asked multiple times all over Twitter. Other YouTubers have mentioned. And one of the big questions right now is, how do people feel about Raw moving to Netflix, and how do I feel about WWE being on Netflix? At first, it was a confusing question for me because I didn't really know what my answer should be. Personally, I don't really care what network my show is on, as long as it's accessible to me and it runs and works. Then cool beans, I'll watch it. But I get the logistics of it, and when I really start thinking about it, Raw moving to Netflix is a big deal. It's a monumental deal. Raw debuted on USA Network in '93. The only time it moved off of USA was from 2000 to 2005, when it went to TNN, which later became Spike TV during that time. Raw is one of, if not the longest running episodic weekly television shows in history, and that's a huge deal. WWE and Raw itself are monumental, not just in wrestling, but in entertainment and television history. And so is Netflix. For those who are around and remember, Netflix used to be a service where you'd order DVDs. They'd send them to you in the mail, and then you'd send them back. It was a mail-in rental service. Then they got a little more advanced, and we had the Netflix Red Box. It was outside of every CVS, Walgreens, drugstore, and 7-Eleven. You'd walk up to the box, scroll through a touchscreen, pick what you wanted, movies, even video games. And then you'd return them later, or not, and end up paying a late fee. I don't know if those red boxes still exist. I know a few around me kind of disappeared. But again, moments in time. Netflix has evolved with the times, and that's what it takes to survive in any environment. You have to evolve and thrive. People are learning that you've got to change with the times. You can't just sit around complaining, stuck in the past because you like the way something was. You got to move forward. Netflix is doing just that. They're changing with the times. Netflix is starting to do live television. They're partnering more with networks, and partnering with WWE is a really smart move, not only for Netflix, but for WWE too. Netflix is the largest streaming service in the world. If there's one service that most people have, it's Netflix. They've got some of the best original content, some of the best documentaries, and some of the best throwback shows. On paper, this partnership looks good. It makes sense. But there are still some blurry areas and questions. For instance, it's just Raw that's moving to Netflix in the US, and when is that changing? Are we going to get SmackDown on there too? Are we getting everything we used to have on the WWE network? Is it still going to be on Peacock? Will the premium live events, or PLEs, still be on Peacock? And in what countries will the WWE content move to Netflix? So I don't have the paperwork or contracts to figure that stuff out, and honestly, that kind of detail doesn't matter much to me. It'll matter when it matters and when I need to know. I'll figure it out. As long as I know where to find the shows I want to watch, when I want to watch them, I'm good. Like I said, I don't care where they put the shows. If I had to think of any negatives off the top of my head, it's mainly that we have to subscribe to so many different streaming services now just to watch everything. We all ditched cable years ago for streaming services, and now those same streaming platforms have caught on and are making us subscribe to multiple services. Such is the state of the world, and everything is a business now. And a lot of people on Twitter have been asking about the rating of Raw when it moves to Netflix. Will it be G, TVMA, TV-14, PG, or something else? Personally, that doesn't really matter to me. If it does matter to you, I'd ask you this. Why does it matter? What is it about TV-14 or TVMA programming that makes it more suitable for you to watch? From my perspective, WWE already does a great job with their programming. I don't feel like they're super restricted by their current ratings, And the restrictions that do exist aren't things I care to see on TV anyway. The beauty of what WWE does is that they save dramatic things like color, aka blood, for special occasions. You see it every week, it loses its luster. It's not special anymore. We've seen that happen in other promotions. But the rating, kind of irrelevant to me. And of course, probably one of the biggest issues right now is buffering and accessibility. Another huge concern people have raised is buffering issues. This conversation started with the Logan Paul and Mike Tyson fight, where there were buffering problems. And Triple H even addressed this, saying they had 150 million people watching at once. That's 150 million. For context, Raw gets between 1 and 2 million viewers on traditional network TV. And if Raw somehow gets more than 2 million viewers on Netflix at one time and there's buffering, I'd ask, what's the difference between that and the little hiccups we already see on USA Network? Sometimes we get black screens or minor glitches. That's just the nature of television. It's never going to be perfect. I trust Netflix somewhat. It's a well-oiled machine. It's been around a long time, and it hasn't survived this long by being stupid. Sure, there might be hiccups, but I don't think it's something we need to freak out about. And I'm sure they've worked out some of the kinks that they discovered during the Tyson and Logan Paul fight. And their next test will be WWE Raw. And then, of course, there's questions about the roster splits and branding. I'm kind of curious about the roster split. We've heard rumors of another mid-season draft. Clearly, Netflix has some say in which wrestlers they want featured on Raw, but what happens to the talent that gets left behind? Are we finally going to get truly brand-specific rosters? Or will wrestlers continue floating back and forth, which we've seen over and over and over? Honestly, I've always said the brand split is made up and the rules don't matter. You can come up with any storyline reason to send someone to a different show. Still, I'm interested to see how this plays out, especially when it comes to talent distribution. Another thing I'm curious about is how many old, casual, and lapsed fans might start watching wrestling again just because they have Netflix. It's such a popular platform, and when something's that accessible, people are going to get curious. Especially when people like me and many others are out here hyping it up. We see you in the comments, we see you watching little clips of us and saying, you were the reason I got back into wrestling. Okay, great. Now sit down and watch the show. It's right there on Netflix. Better yet, it's basically DVR. You can script through parts, and I bet we won't even have to deal with commercials. If Netflix really knows what they're doing, they'll organize Raw episodes into folders by segments, kind of like YouTube. That way, people can watch specific moments without skimming through the entire 3-hour program. Overall, this move is exciting. There's so much potential for original content on Netflix. After shows, reality shows like Total Divas or Tough Enough, and more wrestling-themed programs that could attract non-wrestling fans. The only downside I foresee in 2025 is the inevitable tribalism among wrestling fans. People will compare Raw on Netflix to SmackDown on USA, and while competition can be healthy, it's also exhausting. Wrestling fans can be so divisive about everything, from shows to rosters, from promotions, and even down to brands of chips. But at the end of the day, what matters most is the big picture. This is a huge moment for WWE and professional wrestling. We're in a kind of renaissance era right now. Wrestling is arguably the best it's been in a long time, if not ever. We need to embrace that and let new fans give it a shot. They don't need to know every move, every champion, or every show. Let them discover wrestling at their own pace, because the more people that get into it, the better it is for the business and for all of us. So, mark your calendars. Monday Night Raw on Netflix airs January 6, 2025 at 8 p.m. Eastern. And let's see what this new chapter brings. So, let me know your thoughts on Raw on Netflix in the comments section below. Of course, give us a thumbs up if you like a video. Hit that subscribe button down below. Of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. As always, don't forget to subscribe to us on all major podcast platforms, including Good Pods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts from. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.